What up? Okay. This is gonna get on my nerves. These glasses, but we're gonna have to deal with it. Oh boy. I'm gonna have to look like this the entire night. What's up, lids? Did not mean to do that. How's everyone doing out there? Thank you. Trying to keep it professional now. Make it look good. Hopefully everyone's doing well out there. We made it to Wednesday, so that's always good. Now everyone's joining in now. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Like I said, I know the world is now opening back up, so make sure we're all being safe however you deem necessary, wearing masks or not. The choice is yours. Your body, your choice. So we'll go from there. Let me get Alex in here. And I spelled advisor wrong. That's terrible. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes. This is. Yeah. I need to unpin. Wait a second. I need to unpin this because I spelled advisor wrong, and you know how my OCD will kick in, and
will you wake up in the middle of the night thinking about
it? Yeah, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, all those people saw this live.
Saw me spell advisor wrong.
Yep. As much as I get on people talking about their spelling. Okay, there we go. We'll give people a little moment to get in. We'll get started. I was expecting a Jill Scott vibe.
Listen, I said I'm gonna freak him out. I said I should put on a head wrap like candles. I should put on a moo smock and black lipstick and have him like, who is this person?
When did you get braces?
I said he would drag me for filth. I've had these it's been about 2 months now.
Oh, okay. Make sure you put that on Do Not Disturb. We're not having this.
How did I do that? How did I do that?
You're the one with the droid. I have no idea.
I have no idea. No idea.
Oh,
there has to be a way though, right?
I would assume. Don't worry about it. Let's hopefully all your texts come in later on.
We'll ignore them. We will ignore them.
I'll edit them out later on.
That should be an option. Do not disturb. It should be there.
It is on the iPhone. I'm sorry. You don't have that. You haven't had
You would be proud of me. I actually have an iPhone 2 now.
Is that yours or is it Logan's?
It's mine. I am trying to step into what are we in, the 21st century?
Is it?
Are we really? Right?
I feel like we've been in the 21st century for.
Look. It's giving 17th century bubonic plague vibes. It's giving yellow fever.
It's getting dark outside. I need to go in the house. So, yeah. But we'll go ahead and get started. We'll just have people come in. I'm going to try to look down. Wearing my glasses with this light is a little irritating because you can see the ring.
I like that look, though. I like when you can see the ring in the eyes. I thought that was the purpose. That's not what that's for?
No, that's not what I was trying to give, but it's okay. Is someone watching somewhere else, or is like the volume just up? I can hear myself.
I don't know. It might be feedback. I don't know why it would be.
Teddy Riley over here. Okay.
I hear perfectly on my end.
Of course you can. Of course you can, Teddy. Of course you can. So I'll go ahead and get started with today's Focus TV. This is Alex Tierany. Let me back up. I've known Alex for quite some time since we worked together at the established, also known as Maryland Live Casino.
Yeah.
So I've known her since then, and ever since then we've connected in so many ways. Not those type of ways, but we've connected, and that's why I've deemed her my soul spiritual advisor. Because whenever I'm feeling down, or I feel like things are just not going as they should be, I definitely text Alex. I call Alex. We kiki for a little bit, but then we really get down to business and we talk about what's going on. So that's a little bit what we're gonna be talking about today. Keep it nice and light. Obviously, with everything that's going on in the world, I think this is necessary because we always want to focus on our energies and how we're protecting them. So the first question I wanted to ask you is, during times like this, it's not every day that we're met with a pandemic that's killing people rapidly. I hate to hearken on the fact that we're not met with racism, but we are daily. But in any times, any bad times for anybody, how are we able to protect our energy, and what can we do to restore what has been possibly taken from us?
It doesn't matter if you let yourself
perfect timing that I would just lose her like that.
You lost me?
Okay. I did for a little bit, yes. Did you hear my question?
Yep, I did hear it. So the first thing about protecting your energy is, first of all, intention. Intention is very, very important right now. It doesn't matter if you wrap yourself in sage. It doesn't matter if you encapsulate yourself in a crystal. Intention is the first thing. When you come out of the house every day, you should be war ready. And by war ready, I mean you need to have your armor on. And by armor, you need to have your mental, your physical, your spiritual, all of those things. Because what's happening is we're putting a lot of our emotion and a lot of our things in the hands of other people. And we're letting others dictate our energy. And when you do that, you're a pawn. So intention has to be your first thing. So you got to wake up and you got to start strong. Okay. I don't care if you can only find one thing you're thankful for, but I try to definitely start with gratitude. It's not the best of times. It's really sullen. It's a lot going on. But your intention and the way you set your day up dictates that. So you got to be sure you're starting strong with that.
Yeah. So I know we've had these talks before because in times previous, and I know people can attest to this for themselves as well, if they feel that they are the giving type, and they're constantly giving themselves away to people, how do I then restore my energy back to myself? Because maybe I'm that giver, and I give and I give and I give, but I don't get back from those people, which then in itself is another conversation. But on regards to energy, how am I able to restore then my energy?
Well, the first thing is, so we got to change our people, places, and things, right? So an outlet only works if you plug something into it, right? Mm-hmm. So we got to be careful of what we're plugging in. When you are giving, and don't get me wrong, the human body is amazing. The human mind, oh my God, we can't figure it out. It is absolutely amazing. But once you deplete your resources, it is so hard to start again. So that's why, again, it's really, really important to be mindful of these connections. You know what I mean? Because every connection is not beneficial. And that's what's going on. Once you get zapped, you turn into a shell. And then people are going, I'm tired. I don't know what's wrong. I got headaches. No matter how much you eat, you can't get full. You're constantly stress eating. You're going into those kind of negative behaviors. We're self-medicating. We're medicating with sex. We're medicating with food. We're medicating with shopping because we're empty. Because you're giving and giving and you're pouring so much into everything else. And like, what's the thing that people always say? You can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
So it's like that thing. You have to kind of, even if you have to delegate time to you and find out who you are, what you like, you have to dedicate. I say start with something that's just for you. A lot of people, you'll say, okay, well, introduce yourself to me. And they go, well, hi, I'm Alex. I'm a bartender. And no. Not what you do, but who you are. And I think we kind of got to start there. So you have to start with scheduling time for you. I've always been taught you schedule things that are important, but you got to start, how you eat an elephant, one bite at a time. So you have to start with those small kind of sacrifices that you're making for yourself.
Now we talk about when we wake up in the morning, obviously, and we've had this conversation before as well, saying obviously before our feet touch the ground, what we're grateful for, having a full lung of air,
Yeah.
full lung of air. Yes.
Just one.
Lungs,
Just one.
yeah,
Lung.
just one,
Just one. Lung.
but lungs full of air and the such. What about when we get home from the day? Because that's where we see ourselves being more physically tired, not
Yeah.
realizing that we might be energetically tired because we have just used up everything that we did overnight. So what is a good routine when we get home? And we hear a lot of people talk about, I need to de-stress when I get home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are some good techniques to do that so I can somewhat start recharging earlier?
So unfortunately, and it's a super, super unpopular opinion, but it involves cutting out the technology first. So rarely during the day do you get 10 minutes that is just for you. That you got 10 minutes where you constantly were shut down. Where that 10 minutes was just for you. So when you get home, first of all, you kind of de-stress because you've been around energies and picking up on stuff all day long. So you need to take at least 10 minutes for you. Without music, without looking at your phone. People say, okay, well, I go home and I de-stress and I hop on a video game. That's too much stimuli. You have to turn your body off. Just like you need to cut your cell phone off, you have to turn your body off. Meditation is a great thing. However, meditation is not always viable for everybody because people will say, okay, well, I got a million thoughts going. It's hard for me to meditate. I sit down to think and my mind just goes. Do guided meditation. YouTube has a bunch of amazing guided meditations. I don't recommend if you're just jumping into meditation for you to do unassisted meditation. It takes a level to get to that unassisted meditation. Your meditation needs to be guided because if we're not listening to something, our mind is just going. You can't take a second for yourself because you're worried about what you're going to eat for dinner. You're worried about turning the shower water on. You're worried about texting somebody back, calling somebody back, straightening up, taking the stuff off the bed, what you got to do tomorrow. So when does your brain get to unplug? It doesn't. So like I said, Honest Brothers is great, but you always go in and check out a guided meditation and just kind of take that second to decompress. Even if it's 5 minutes, you need a second to unplug.
Now I'm going to come back to the meditation in a second, but on that point, how important is it to have someone, let's say you have someone at home, you're married, you're dating or such, that somewhat follows the same thing that you're not to the T what you're doing, but they somewhat follow the same philosophies, because I can imagine if you were on different accords that it would kind of throw you off a little bit, right?
Absolutely. That's why it's super important. And we don't realize, you grow up and you realize how important it is to find somebody with like-minded values. Now, they don't have to be on it. I'm not saying they got to be lighting candles and, saging the place and doing your incense. But I tell people, even in relationships where you have a difference, if you are with someone that is not willing to give you 10 minutes to yourself, you might need to reevaluate what's going on there. Because we need some other conversations. Why do you feel like I can't be left alone for 10 minutes? Or, what do you think I'm doing? Because that's a deeper issue. That's the tip of the iceberg. If you don't trust me alone for 10 minutes, what you doing, where you going, where you at, what you thinking? That's a whole different thing that we got to kind of look at. Because, oftentimes partners, they might not be with it. They can be devout religious people. They can be but they're not always going to be with it. But, anybody you're with should respect you enough to say, you know what, if this makes you better, whether I believe in it or not, I'm going to do that for you.
Yeah. So to meditation, which I've done guided ones before on that you've suggested for me, which were great. My question is, the first couple times I did it, I know I found it hard to really clear my mind. Do you know how I work? And my brain is rarely empty for 5 minutes, let alone 30 seconds.
Absolutely.
So if I'm just getting into it, what are some tips getting into that meditation routine? If there is a routine, or maybe just doing it once a week, how do I clear my mind? What do I do? That kind of thing. What kind of tips would you have for that?
My first tip, and it's an easy one, but a lot of people don't think about it, get still. I have so many people that hit me and say, well, my meditation didn't work. I just couldn't do it. I say, well, what were you doing? Dishes. I was playing YouTube, listening to the guided meditation while I was doing dishes.
Right.
Or I was doing emails and I had it in the background. I was cleaning the closet. I was still yourself. You have to get still. For you to really listen, you have to get still. How people, listen to respond. You can't hear what I'm saying if you're thinking about what you're going to say back. So the same thing works with meditation. You have to get still. And I think as a people, we've kind of gotten this thing that still is wrong, that you have to be constantly moving, constantly doing something, multitasking. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
Your brain literally goes from the second you wake up in the morning to the end. Just to blink your eye, so many brain functions and nerve synapses and things have to happen. Your nervous system is constantly stimulated. It is essential, not just spiritually, but medically, that you decompress. Like, you have to get still, and we have to kind of be okay with that. It can be hard for some because your mind goes, you get to wandering, little thoughts creep in that we don't want to do. And that's another self-medication for us. And we, especially people, don't understand being busy is a way that we self-medicate. Because if I'm busy, I don't have to think about what's going on. Mm-hmm. I don't have to deal with what's really in my head. So the first thing is definitely to get still. Got to be still. Yeah. And then you can go from there.
So I wanted to move on to our next topic, which is always funny to me because I call them rocks, which they're not. I'm jokingly saying that. They're not rocks. But when it comes to stones and crystals, first off, what is their purpose, and why do people like yourself, why do we treasure them so much?
Okay. So the big thing about the stones that a lot of people, and you know what, I actually love that, everybody has been into the metaphysical. Like, I know people are like laughing about it. I am so happy that everybody's getting on. Okay. Crystals are derived from different parts of the earth, different things. Everything in earth, like in an elemental chart, scientifically first, is rated on the level from like 0 to whatever, 1,000. Stones or crystals have the least amount of chaos. That means their molecules interact with each other in an almost magical way. It's like a scientifically perfect compound.
Okay.
That's the scientific element of it. Now for the metaphysical one, of course, different things. All of our bodies are made of so many elements. Like if you took a periodic table and you were like, what's in me? You would find everything basically except for man-made elements, in that chart. So crystals, depending on where they're from, where they're mined, things like that, have all of those things. That's why they say, okay, well, some crystals help with intestinal trouble or some crystals help with headaches, because these are the elements found in your body that's in that stone. So the way that the spiritual crystals work, the ones that help, they act like little mini phone towers. Crystals are conduits for different energies. So the same way you would take a phone tower and get little energies and filter it, that's what different crystals do.
Okay.
That's why certain crystals are blockers, and other crystals are energy absorbers. Some crystals are energy magnifying. Same way you would do with a phone tower. T-Mobile got one. T-Mobile's don't work for Sprint, right? Sprint doesn't work for Boost or Nextel or Cricket, That's the same way it works with your crystals.
So explain or give us a couple examples of some stones, crystals, that would be good to have around the house.
Citrine. Citrine is one of my favorites. I am doing a lot of citrine as of lately. Citrine gives you a positive outlook. Citrine is also one that I recommend for people who are trying to break like unhealthy addictions and habits, because a lot of the problem with that addiction is not so much in the addiction, but it's in the mind state behind the addiction. Because people think it's so hard. I've been doing it so long. I do it every day. I do it all day. So the first thing is to change your outlook. So I really like citrine. Hematite is a good one. Hematite keeps you calm. I really like that. Malachite I keep by my front door when I walk in, and malachite kind of clears your thoughts. So I like that. Crystal quartz is a nice one to have. Gotta be careful with it though, because anything crystal and clear is usually a magnifier. So that's when you have to watch your energy. So if you're already angry, it's gonna magnify it. If you're in a great mood, throw your crystal quartz on. It's really up to what you feel like you need. Agate is a good one. That's for balance. I really like my home stones to be calming, balancing stones, protective stones. My stones that I usually take outside are more passion, carnelian, things like that that are going to give you that kind of umph that you need. But all the home stones I keep really super calming.
What should I do with it? Like, is there a strategic place to place them around the house or keep them on me in my car?
So it depends what you need. Like when I have trouble sleeping, I sleep with a bloodstone. Bloodstone is really good for insomnia and things like that. So depending what the issue is, that's where you keep it. My work stones, I keep on me. Like right now, I'm doing some new stuff, going to a new thing. So I keep fluorite. I have fluorite bracelets. I have fluorite necklaces. Fluorite is a concentration stone. So I wouldn't need this as much in the house unless I was doing like a project. But by me going out, that's what I take out with me. So you definitely keep them on you depending on what you need. I do have a crystal grid. I do that for like any of my crystal work or any of my healing stuff. So it really depends on your need. Like I remember when you got to take a long road trip. Remember your crystals for your road trip. You know,
Yes.
different traveling stones you take with you. You know what? I'm going a long way. I need to get a couple of things for that.
Now, moving on to everyone's favorite burning incense, sage. How good, how well does sage work, and in what capacity should I use sage? Because it becomes trendy almost when people talk about it all the time.
Absolutely.
So people are like, "Oh, I need to sage this. I need to sage the world. I need to sage everything."
Sage the world, yeah.
But realistically, how useful is it, and when should I use it?
So sage is super useful, but the thing that I like to point out, there are several different sages.
Okay.
I know it has gotten a lot. It's gotten like super commercial. I saw a sage kit in Claire's. It was like a little mini witchcraft kit. I was like, are geeking. I didn't even want to go in no more. Like, are we doing this? Like, we're doing this.
Hey,
we're doing
strike
it.
a dollar, right?
Yeah. So basically, when you're sage, and then let's say that you have just a basic, cleansing sage. I like sage. I like Palo Alto sticks as well. If you're doing sage, you want to do each room individually. You want to shut the door. You want to open your windows. You want to actually sage, and you need to speak your intention. When I'm saging, I'm asking any energies that don't mean me well to leave. I am asking these things to leave. I'm saging, and I'm closing the door, going to the next part of the house, saging, closing. And you're kind of, think of it like sweeping something out. The same way you would sweep your bathroom, the same way you would sweep up around your house and you don't go over it, that's what you do with your sage. And you are ushering these energies out. We're not going to sage with the door shut and just raise stuff up and chase it around the house. Right? And there are so many different types of sages. Different types of sages for different things. Sage is really great. They got like blood dragon sage. They got white sage. Like, sage is really great. It's just super important that we're doing these things and not kind of making them commercial. Like I've seen all the rage has been like sage and altars. People are like, doing their altars and stuff like that, which is great, but you got to know how to use it because you got to know what you're calling. You got to know exactly what's going on. So yeah, sage is great. Use it. Sage things. You can sage items, but make sure that you're speaking your intentions aloud because that's where your power is. Your power is in your light. Your light comes from you, so you have to speak it. You can't be silently saging.
Right.
Because they're going to be there like, whoa. What you want me to do?
So I forgot to preface this show before we started is that what we're speaking on now is obviously our beliefs. So if for the people who are watching, if that's not your belief or you don't get into it, that's perfectly fine. Everyone has their beliefs. I still have my faith and everything else. So I just wanted to make sure because the next question I wanted to ask because we've had deeper conversations before and we've talked about it. So I wanted to ask you as far as energies compared to spirits, same, different, indifferent, because I know I've dealt with things before where it might feel like something, but it might have just been a bad energy that was left over instead of it actually being a spirit or a ghost per se.
Right.
But yeah, so same difference or
Different,
not?
totally different. Definitely different. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of get tripped up. They'll say, I don't like, you can tell somebody, I don't like your energy. And what they hear is there's a demon living inside of you, and I am, professing you as the Antichrist. Totally different things. Totally different things. A spirit is definitely a manifestation, usually of a person, like a person, a thing. Energies are totally, totally different. So, a heartbeat. To make the heartbeat, you need energy, right? To make that synapse, you need energy. You need electricity. All of those things are energy. Spirits are totally kind of different, and I think that's where spirit is usually of a living thing.
Okay.
A living thing, a living place. Energy is a different feeling.
Right. On that, I was going to ask, I just lost my brain and my train of thought on that. Oh, because kind of circling back to energies, I wanted to ask about physical touch. I don't think people realize a lot how they can lose their energy by a handshake or by a hug. Can you explain that a little bit?
Energy transference is so real. That is the quickest way to do it. Everything is an energy exchange. And once you give it and you touch, that's it. So that's why it's important to be careful about who hand you shaking, who hugging you, because it's not always the person, but it could be something within them. It could be something on them. Sometimes people say it, and with us being adults, we have been groomed to kind of ignore it. You'll get that, I ain't feel right. Or that person didn't feel right. That is the quickest way. There are definitely energy vampires around, and those people can drain you. And sometimes it's not them. Sometimes it's what lives in them. Sometimes it's those energies that are literally seeking out a vessel. And if they sense light, they're like moths. They'll go to that. That's why it's super important. Even when I start something new, I usually wear hats when I start, or cover my head, because I protect my crown chakra, because that is an easy way to get in. And that's the top. Energies come for your face first. That's what they do. They attack your body, so you cover those things up. But physical touch is super important. Sex is super important. The people that you're hugging is super important, because energetically, you got to look at it. We're all a bunch of compounds and molecules. That's all we are. Flesh and bone is just, organs, which breaks down to tissues, which break down to cells, which break down to atoms. So we're all the same thing. And these things bond to each other, and they can either mix or not mix. It's just literally like a periodic table. So the exchange of energy is more scientific than anything.
Awesome. So one of the big questions I did want to ask, and I know the answer to it because we talk all the time, but the viewers might not know, is what is Mercury, and why the hell is it always in retrograde?
Poor Mercury. Poor Mercury. Mercury gets such a bad rate.
We're in Mercury retrograde right now, right?
So here's the thing about Mercury, right? All the planets retrograde. Mercury only really retrogrades like it's average usually like 4 times a year, like 4 to 6, something like that. But the thing is, Mercury is the closest planet to the sun. So it's constantly, like, all the planets go into transit. Mercury retrograde is only when, from the angle that we're looking at it, it appears to go backwards. Now, it's not really going backwards, but that's what it appears to us. Now, by Mercury being the ruler of like communications and things, it's big on, miscommunications. But people have like blown Mercury down.
Yes, it's become trendy.
It's like, Mercury, go home. You're drunk and no one likes you.
Right.
Like, there are so many things worse than Mercury retrograde. Saturn retrograde for me is literally, but it's like Mercury by being closest, it gets the worst rep. Now, Mercury retrograde itself just means what? Going backwards. So communication issues arise because Mercury rules communication and things like that. That's why they say, hey, maybe it's not best to travel. Maybe it's not best to sign contracts, because they want to make sure that you're reading that throughout. But it has literally expanded. Mercury does deal with technology and stuff, but it's like, you know what? I stubbed my toe. Oh, Mercury retrograde.
Right.
Literally, I lost my glasses. Mercury retrograde.
Right.
It's like, no, that's Neptune. But, you know, Mercury retrograde has definitely kind of become trendy and things like that. Even though people might have like different sensitivity, like usually I think Mercury rules Geminis and Virgos. So they are super sensitive to that. Because like I said, Mercury is usually communication and reason. That's a big one. It's reason. So that's why there can be like miscommunications, people, you know, beefing back and forth. So, but it just gives a really bad rap. There are much retrogrades that I would definitely rather do a Mercury retrograde than like a
Right.
Mars retrograde. Like Mars is aggression and things like that. So I would definitely rather do a Mercury retrograde than a couple other options we got. So
right. With all the what we believe in, how important is the moon to our daily lives that people don't understand? You know, as far as what phase it's in, how we see it, how we view it. How important is that?
I think it's totally amazing that people don't really accept it as much. They have literally based an entire calendar. They literally do the weather forecast based on the moon. They literally do. That's how like captains determine like the sea and the tide and all of those things are controlled by the moon. Human bodies are like 88.9% water. So I'm not sure how it wouldn't affect us.
Right.
Lunar pull, and it again breaks down to the science. The Earth's pull, the gravitational pull, where it's kind of centered. That's why the moon has always been kind of a big part of society. But of course, if we've gone on and society's kind of changed and we've got, you know, closer to technology and away from our roots, people don't really deem it. But the moon is a big part, literally, of weather, the way animals sleep, the way harvest is wrong. All of those things are kind of based on the moon. So it definitely plays a huge part, to say the least. Certain signs are ruled by the moon. Like, matter of fact, right now, I think the moon is in like Cancer. Like, I think we're in Cancer right now. So this is like a super like emotional time. Like, Cancers are already ruled by the moon.
Right.
The moon is the sign for like emotion and moods and all of these like yucky things. And it's like nice, just nice with a little emotion.
Right. So emotional.
Definitely that, to say the least.
So obviously there's a lot going on in the world right now. And speaking on energies again, because all of our conversations that we usually do have personally do revolve around energies and where our energies are going. How important, and not speaking specifically to a person, maybe someone who lives, you know, in the White House or just in general, but everything that's going on, how important is an energy shift of the magnitude that we're seeing right now? Because whether people like to believe it or not, things don't just happen for a reason. I mean, yes, things happen for a reason. I don't know. My words are all mixed, but you see what I'm saying? Things happen for a reason, but I'm saying things don't just happen inexplicably, per se. That's what I was saying. So how important are these big energy shifts in order for us to actually move a little bit more differently than we've normally moved?
I feel like it's super important. I feel like I would even go as far as using the word detrimental. It is detrimental because energy is where it all starts. And if we can't get on one accord and the energy's just divided, we're going to stay stuck in neutral. You know what I mean? So it's really important that we're trying to spread. And I know it's hard. Like, it's so much easier said than done, but it's detrimental right now. Like right now, as we've seen, it's literally life or death. It is life or death that like-minded people. And it might hurt. It might hurt, but we have to do some weeding. You know, like sometimes you have to prune your flowers for them to grow, but that's how essential the energy is. Like, you can still love everybody, you know, family, friends, all of that, but it is detrimental that energy expands because the universe doesn't know usually good or bad energy. It just knows, okay, they're putting out a lot of that. They must like it. So let's give it back double. Let's give it back triple. So that energy is detrimental right now.
Okay. Now, I know we were speaking on Cancers. Me being a Taurus, I'm true to my sign, but I don't use it as an excuse in any type of argument or situation. But how true are the signs to the people, to us as people, as far as maybe some character traits that people don't understand? How true are they?
I think they're super true. I think and the reason people kind of discount them is they don't look at the science behind it. Like astronomy is a real science. Like you need to go to like 80-year college to become an astronomer. Like, you know, when you think astronomer, you think like Galileo, but you literally have to, there is a lot of science to be an astronomer. So I think sometimes it's cute. It's quirky. It's, you know, okay, the horoscopes and Cosmo, we saw it on Instagram, but people don't research. And I think when you seek that deeper knowledge, it's kind of like, oh, okay. And you can find out the stats on why a Scorpio may be a Scorpio or what those character traits have to do with it. There's a science behind everything. It's just that it's not as cute and interesting when you have to get into the back end of it. So I think a lot of people kind of shy away from that.
Well, yeah, I think people would shy away from the negative aspects of their personalities and their signs. Rather, I'm a Taurus. Yeah, Dwayne said he's a Taurus, and Tauruses are the best. Yeah. We all know Tauruses are the best.
Human nature shies away from the shadow side. Your shadow side is super important. Okay. And in order to do healing and growth, we have to embrace that shadow side. And a lot of us don't want to do that. So hearing the first negative thing that we hear is kind of like, oh, nope, that's not me. That doesn't pertain. Instead of kind of taking a look at yourself and saying, okay, well, let me really sit down and have an honest conversation with myself about myself. But we don't want to do that.
So are Geminis 4 people?
Are they what?
Are they 4 then? Is there 4 of them? Then
4 Geminis?
Yeah, no, well, okay. Is it Gemini 4? Since they're twins, then they're going to have their shadows. So there's really 4 of them that you got to deal with.
You know what? If you look at it like that, you can say that. But the shadow side and the two themselves are the human and the shadow side. So the Gemini constellation, So the Gemini constellation are Castor and Pollux. They were 2 brothers. They were amazing. The story goes, one was like a god, one was not. The story goes, they went to like war, one died, one loved his brother so much that he wanted to give him some of his immortality. So the way they did that is that, okay, well, half the time one would go in the heavens up on Mount Olympus and the other one would stay on earth or in the underworld. So that's where you get that contrast that Geminis are either heaven or hell, because Castor and Pollux go back and forth between those realms. So that's why the Gemini, they say, is conflicted or two-faced, you know, or the different things that people say when they're like, oh, they're crazy. Yeah, they're 2 people living in one. So that's kind of, you know, but all of these things kind of have backstories so you understand a little more. And that constellation, even the constellation Gemini that exists now that we can see, it still alternates. It's heaven and hell.
So if I'm new to this and I want to get more out of it and I want to learn more about it, kind of really get into it, how do I start? Like, where do I start? You know, do I go to a store? Do I speak to someone like you? Yeah, what do I do?
You could always find me. The stores are great. If you want to start with the crystal aspect, this is my go-to. So this is called the Crystal Bible. This is 2. One is somewhere floating around my house because I am constantly using it. I am constantly referencing it. I am constantly reading it. But these are amazing. These are like, tell you all that you need to know about the different stones, origins, all of that cool stuff. Definitely research. Definitely research. You can go in a store. Make sure it's a reputable store. Make sure it's not just like a Claire's. Crystal Fox is great. They're Black owned. There's another, what's the one on Falls Road? I'll get the name of that for you too. But they can go in and they don't mind talking. And it's really just kind of reading up and going where your heart leads you. Like, there are a lot of different paths. And sometimes we kind of, when we grow up a certain way, we feel like we're betraying a thing. But when you're getting knowledge, there's no such thing as betraying anything, you know, when you're only being true to yourself. So I definitely recommend the Crystal Bible by Judy Hole. I think you can get it off of Amazon. Start with 1. It comes in like 3, but literally amazing. And it talks just about different things and it's cool, definitely cool reference source.
Awesome. So as we close up here, I usually ask my guests, and obviously, to be honest, I don't know if we're getting done with the pandemic or they're about to close everything down again. But so far, up to this point, what do you think is the biggest thing that you've learned about yourself through this whole pandemic?
Oh, that is a good one. The biggest thing I learned about myself during the pandemic. I am a lot more resilient than I ever knew. I've always said it,
Mhm.
but I actually learned that I am so resilient. It is amazing how resourceful that you find out you are. It's amazing. Like you literally, and I think pandemic was definitely a gift. It was a gift and a
Mhm.
curse. I know, a lot of people lost things, but I told the people, I make the joke, like I was so happy. I think I went to Target or Walmart, one of those superstores or whatever. I went, all the paint was gone, all the wood was gone, the paintbrushes was gone, the glue was gone. Like people are literally reading. Like I usually go to the bookstores on Tuesday to get the one gone. Like people are wiping it out. And if that's what it kind of took to get there,
Mhm.
I'm okay with that.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Awesome. Well, what would you leave with us? Any gems that you would leave with us as far as how to navigate this thing called life, or what you do on a daily basis?
I say never stop learning. Never stop learning. When you stop learning, you die. Learning is growth. Never stop learning. Don't be afraid to ask, venture into the unknown, but never stop learning.
That was
Like you can
great.
only, I think it's important that people know you can only heal yourself. I can help, crystals can help, sage can help, but it's up to you to heal yourself.
That
And
was
that's it.
great and morbid at the same time. So just, if you're not learning, you just die. So, Dwayne, nice. Dwayne has a question here. He said he definitely believes in the signs, the energy of the people around, and your compatibility with them. His question is, can your sign fall out of a compatible system with those around?
Can your sign fall out of a compatible system? You mean
Mhm.
like okay, like friends, family, surrounded, things like that? Oh, absolutely. You can always fall out of compatibility because as humans we're ever evolving. So the same people you're compatible with in high school may not be the same people you're compatible with in college. The same people you're compatible with in college may not be the same people you're compatible with when you're in your late 40s. So that's why it's important that you're paying attention to those things because, like, energy is very important. Because, like we talked about before, energy is a connection. So they can drain that connection if you're not on the same wavelength. So it's super important to make sure that we are constantly editing our story. Like you have to reevaluate those relationships. And I'm not saying go AWOL, but literally evaluate your relationships like you would evaluate a job. The same way you would go to a job and you would write down, okay, the pros are they're gonna give me benefits. The pros are they got free lunch. The pros are it's a uniform allowance. But the cons are it's 2 hours from my house. It's $1 less. They don't have, you have to evaluate your relationships like that because we're
He's,
constantly changing,
he said even a spouse.
even a spouse. And it's not to say that if you fall out of that you can't get back to that, but you have to do the work. And a lot of people don't want to do the work. So it's up to you to say, you know what? It's time for a hard conversation. I am no longer compatible. Let's work this out. Because that's the tip of the iceberg. So then you break it down and get to those values. What does this mean to you? Because this is what it means to me. And then you can kind of work through those things and you can heal. Because you can't heal anybody else. But you can heal you to be the best you for you and the best you for them. So if they're doing that as well, you guys work it out.
I was going to say that I was going to agree with you when it all comes down to any conversation that you have when dealing with someone else, especially when it comes to a relationship, whether friendship or actual relationship, it always comes down to you and what you're giving and what you're taking in. Because at the end of the day, the only person that you can fix, like you said, is you. So we've had this conversation plenty of times. But I think it all goes back to what you're doing And sometimes it does come down to what you've done or are doing, and then the response that you get from that. Because you can tell from that then, and that's almost like a little check as well. When you want to check your partner or check a friend to do something, to then see how they respond. I know a lot of people have talked about during this pandemic, how friendships or even relationships have kind of come to blows because they say, oh, well, you never checked on me during this entire time, not realizing that everyone's going through the same thing
Absolutely.
that you're going through. So I never understood that, but you know.
And that's another thing we got to check: entitlement. People, and that's because of us. We have given so much that people are entitled to it now. And how dare you not give me what you have been giving to me? So
Right.
then instead of, being appreciative and saying, you know what, the million times they did check on me, the million times, the 18 years they've been by my side, is now in this 2 months, you ain't give me a shout out. So.
Right. Awesome. Well, give me your, or give the people your Instagram. They can ask you questions and they can check you out.
I am Alex is back. You can find me. Type it in, Thomas. I don't know how to do that.
I'll put it. She's so not tech savvy. It's
so
really
not
bad. I will put it in the comments. We'll be able to see it. Alex, thank you so much. We'll talk.
No problem. This. It was an awesome time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right, so like I said, I'd like to thank Alex Tierany for coming on the show. She definitely is an old soul, but a great one at that. Definitely someone to reach out to. If you're looking into learning more about it, she'll definitely help you out. Like I said, she helps me out all the time whenever I need something. This Friday, another episode of Focus TV. It's probably going to be a question and answer show, so feel free, bring all your questions, whether they be about fitness, health, diet, nutrition, life, what's going on in the world, anything you want to know about me, whatever it may be. Join us this Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Until then, stay safe, be loved. I'll see you guys later.